What's going on, guys? So I wanted to give my own testimonial on my experiences working with V and basically how it helped me in my life. I'm not really a person who likes to share much about their personal life, but I want to make this video and I hope it helps some of you watching and helps you come to a decision about what's the best for you going forward. I've been fortunate to know V for more than a decade now, but I only really reached out to him for help a few years ago when I was going through a terrible depressive episode in my life. I was 21 years old at the time, and up until that point I had never really experienced any pain in my life, I want to say. I had a good upbringing. Two middle-class parents, loved me a lot, didn't separate, went to a good school, neighborhood was safe, didn't get into trouble, you get the picture. Around 2020, in the summer, I reached the lowest point in my life, I want to say, right after I graduated from college. And I reached out to V, who another friend had recommended I do, and I talked with him to achieve some clarity on why I had been feeling the way I had been. Like I said before, up until this point in my life, I really never felt like I had felt real pain or grief. And so it felt like this was the first time I was ever dealing with these types of major issues, and I did not know how to deal with it by myself at all. Every emotion of mine felt supercharged, and I started to hate being in my own body. It basically got to the point where I felt like I wanted to just be a spectator in my own life. I felt as though I did not want to put any effort into my goals or desires and would rather just be done with everything related to enjoying life. This basically compounded for about 2 months before I spoke with V, and he helped me break down exactly why I was feeling the way I was. For me, a major part was not living up to the standards I felt my family and friends expected of me. I felt shame almost every waking moment, and it got to a point where I truly felt like I did not provide any benefits to anyone near me, or that I did not even want to show my face. Shame is for me probably the biggest issue I've had to deal with in my life, and something that working with V has helped me with to overcome so much. The lack of direction in my life was causing me so much pain, and my constant pursuit of pleasure and fun left me unsatisfied and angry at myself. To get to the point a bit, I worked with V for about a month that summer, and he helped me rewire the way I was thinking, but more importantly above all, he helped me realize why I was feeling the way I did and what I needed to change in my life to make sure I did not feel this way again. I would say that this was the first time in my life I ever had felt depression, and it was one of the scariest moments in my life. V basically guided me with how to take things back into my hands and feel like I had control over my own life. The feeling of wanting to be a spectator in my own life went away, and I started to actually work towards my goals and desires. I ended up having some of the best work performance of my life in 2020 and 2021, and I felt myself finally feeling in control of everything again and moving on the right path, or rather a path that I myself was proud of and would benefit my friends and family. Towards the end of 2021, I had a physical injury that left me bedridden for about a month. I had never experienced anything like this before, and during my time at the hospital, I ended up getting triggered by something I saw on my phone that brought back some very uncomfortable memories of the past. And I remember thinking to myself at the time that these were some old thoughts that I had had in 2020, and I was really shocked that some of these things still were making me feel the same way, or that I had similar fears. I felt like I had done a great job in 2020 and 2021 with my growth to work past it, but having 1 month to myself in a bed leaves you with your thoughts for quite a while, and I sort of started spiraling by the end of my time in the hospital and feeling some of the same emotions as before, and starting to feel these same issues of, not loving myself or not even wanting to work towards improving myself or reach my desires. I'd say this went on for about a year or so, where I wasn't exactly depressed every day, but I was almost aimless and felt myself slipping back into that feeling of wanting to be a spectator in my own life. Despite the warning signs that I felt in my life, I decided to sort of brush these bad feelings away and continue on my old habits of always trying to live a life of pleasure and rather avoiding my responsibilities than facing them head on. It was a classic immature move and basically made me realize that I was avoiding growing up again. It went fine enough until about the spring of this year, 2024. I had some of the worst work results I have ever had, and the work I'm in is very results driven. It made me feel a sense of identity loss, as in the previous years of 2020 and 2021, I was one of the best performers at my work. I now felt like I didn't know who I was, or that I had lost the talent for my line of work. I started neglecting important results as a result and started acting out worse in general. I ended up falling out of friendship with two of my best friends and also had some family and girl issues at the same time. I hit a breaking point in March of 2024, and I started to feel like if I did not change my life or way of thinking, that I would never learn and continue going in this circle of hurting myself subconsciously by not doing the things in my life that I felt were necessary of me. The resistance to grow up and assume responsibilities was so great in me that when I did hit this breaking point, I felt completely lost and crushed, and worse than all, I had already felt like I had fixed and addressed this in 2020. So to feel like 4 years later I was dealing with the same issues again, it made me feel very disappointed and confused in myself. I honestly got to a point where I didn't even believe myself in the things I was telling myself. Around summer 2024, I reached out to V and told him the situation I was dealing with again and hoped he would have some advice for me. It had been a while since we had talked about these issues. V helped me realize that I needed to totally change the way that I was thinking and acting from within. This time we took a different approach. We started a 4-week boot camp where we met twice a week, and it was one of the best formative experiences I have ever received. V worked with me in a way where I was able to understand exactly why I was feeling the way I was and how to get rid of these negative feelings. Feelings of shame, feelings of not knowing my own identity, all these things that I would stress over so much, and I would just sit and feel like, wow, how can I be tripping over so much even at this big age of mine? Am I ever going to learn? Do I want to learn? These are questions I kept asking myself. V's bootcamp truly helped me realize what's important in my life to me and allowed me to live my life in a way where I'm confident in my actions, my behaviors, and myself. A lot of the time it can be really hard to reach out and ask for help, especially as a man. We see a lot of stuff these days online on what it means to be a man and all this other type of media. It can be very hard for guys to find constructive information for things they're dealing with. I felt blessed to be able to work with someone so closely like V, who did not beat around the bush and helped me get to the core issues quickly. I remember after the first week of sessions, I had already felt a massive load off my chest, and I remember thinking to myself that I could actually start seeing where I wanted to be as a man and how I would get there. Except this time, after the boot camp, I actually believed myself. I have worked with a therapist in the past, and I've had a good experience, but overall working with V has earned me far better results and has allowed me to focus on exactly what I needed to prioritize in my life. I cannot recommend working with V enough for those who feel like they were in the same position as me, basically lost or feeling aimless.